Hello everyone, welcome back to Life Stories. My name is Trent, and please bear with me because today I'm a little sniffly, but we're doing good besides that. We got more stories coming at you from Reddit/idontworkherelady. You know how it goes. Let's get started. Our first story starts with a bang, because the title is, I Want This Troglodyte Fired and Arrested. This was the very early 90s, before the internet or Karen phenomenon. I live in a small town in a rural county. I worked for a local law enforcement agency during the day and at a large retailer at night, stripping, scrubbing, and waxing the floors. It was a ton of hours, but you gotta pay the bills. This afforded my wife the opportunity to work normal hours and be there to take care of the kids. Our sons were 3 and 4 at the time. One night, I was particularly tired. Things were pretty much caught up at work, and I was wandering around in full zombie mode. My manager told me to go ahead and wrap up my work and clock out at midnight, even though I usually work till 4 a.m. I get home about 20 minutes later to find a strange car in my driveway and a strange man in bed with my wife. I walked in my bedroom right in the middle of some overly passionate kissing. Given my profession and training, they were terrified that I would kill them, or worse. I've always prided myself on being able to control even the most dangerous situations by talking people down and avoiding any use of force, no matter how tense things got. I just stood there and ordered him to get out of my house and take my wife with him. I was beyond furious, but managed to hang on to the last strand of control that I had. As they ran out of the house, I shouted at her that she should come pick up her things from the yard in a couple of days. Fast forward 3 days. I am a total wreck. I have not slept and barely eaten and have been walking around borderline in shock. My wife and kids were my entire world, and it was suddenly torn down around me. I called my supervisor at the department and told him everything that happened and asked for a few mental health days. He agreed and gave me the time off. I didn't need to be around the public in that state of mind with a weapon. We have legal insurance at work, and it works like medical insurance. You pick a lawyer from a list of providers in their specialty for discounted or even free services. The lawyer I chose was in the next county in the big city. Our meeting did not go well. She advised me that even with what had happened, the court would most likely rule that since she is the mother, she gets the kids, and I would have to pay her child support. Which is exactly what happened. It was a different time back then. I staggered out of her office, feeling like I had been kicked in the gut. I was already in very bad shape, and this just pushed it to 11. My mouth was very dry, and my throat felt like it would close. I desperately needed something to drink. This was a very posh part of town. Very old homes and very old money. Just down the road from the yacht club and such. There were no convenience stores anywhere to be found. There was, however, a rather high-end grocery store nearby. I really did not want to be around people, but I was desperate for something to drink. I was dangerously dehydrated, so I went in. This is where our story begins. Our cast is CDV, Cruella DeVille, NL, Nice Lady, SM, Store Manager, PO, Police Officer, and me, tired wreck of a man falling apart at the seams. I should start by saying that I was wearing tan khakis and a green polo shirt. The employees of this store wore either black or tan khakis and green polos with the store logo embroidered on the breast. A slightly different shade of green, but not enough to notice unless we were standing side by side. I was in the drink aisle, staring at the bottles of Gatorade, Powerade, etc., but I wasn't really noticing anything. I was staring straight through the shelves. My mind was a million miles away. I suddenly felt a sharp pain in my upper left arm as someone grabbed me hard and tried to snatch me around. Out of instinct and training, I grabbed the wrist with my right hand, twisted it up and over, put my left hand on the upper arm, and slammed them into the support column next to the shelf. I quickly looked around to check my surroundings and noticed 5 or 6 customers staring at what was happening. I then looked at my attacker. It was a scrawny old lady. I released her and stepped back. Remember the original 101 Dalmatians movie? She looked very much like Cruella DeVille from that film. Her hair that was obviously colored, long fake nails and way too many rings, and a necklace that looked like a string of small Christmas ornaments. Even though she looked to be in her late 60s, she must go to aerobics or something, because she had some decent muscle tone under her saggy, overly tanned, leathery skin. As she was composing herself, I heard the nice lady behind me ask if I was okay. I turned to look at her, and she pointed at my arm. I looked down and saw blood running down my arm and dripping on the floor. When I pulled her hand off my arm, 2 of her fake nails must have cut my skin. It wasn't actually bad, I just bleed very easily. At this point, I hear a scream, and turn towards CDV just in time to hear, "How dare you, peasant!" Yes, she called me a peasant. "Do you know who my husband is?" Then, she reached back to take a swing at me. As she tried to slap me, I simply stepped back at the last second, causing her to miss. She lost her balance and fell forward. She knocked several drink bottles off of the shelf and fell face first into a shelf, causing her lip and nose to bleed. About this time, the manager rounded the corner and asked what was going on. Apparently, he saw her try to hit me and fall down. "I want this troglodyte," gotta love her vocabulary, "fired and arrested." The manager looks at me and tells her that I don't work here. "BS! He ignored me and refused to assist me, then attacked me and tried to kill me." About this time, I saw a local police officer rounding the corner. Apparently, one of the customers at the store called them as soon as all this started. PO must have been very close. Excellent response time. CDV putting on her best victim face. "Oh, thank God you're here. I am Miss CDV, and I want this monster arrested. He tried to kill me." Cue the sad puppy dog eyes and crocodile tears. NL said, "Excuse me, officer, that's not what happened at all. She grabbed him and—" "Stop lying to cover for him, you trollop!" CDV's spectacular vocab again. Me holding up my department ID for police officer to see. "I do not work here. I work at my local department." I then turn to SM and point up. "Do those cameras work?" "Excuse me, PO, see the blood on his arm?" Pointing to the bleeding scratches on my arm. "That's where she—" "Stop lying for him! My husband is Mr. CDV, and you'll do what I say right now, or I will call him and he will destroy all of you." "Ma'am, maybe it's best that we come to SM's office to discuss this." As we all turned to leave, he asked SM to take her to his office while he talked to me for a second. The police officer, having apparently dealt with her before, "Okay, so what actually happened?" I told him and reminded him that it will all be on tape as I pointed back up to the camera mount. NL says to PO, "I can tell you that she was screaming at him for a while and then attacked him for no reason. I was on the aisle and saw the whole thing. Then she looked at me. Didn't you hear her screaming at you?" "I'm sorry, I was lost in thought. I didn't notice her until she grabbed me." I also have pretty bad tinnitus from my time in the military, so that could have also contributed to me missing CDV's gentle requests for my assistance. PO says, "Thank you, ma'am. I'll need your contact info for the report and possible testimony." Turning to me, he says, "I'll need your info as well." I gave him one of my department business cards, and he advised me to let my department know right away. He also told me that her husband is actually somebody very important in the city. He was a retired city commissioner and the former CEO of a big insurance agency, and that many big city leaders, all the way up to the mayor's office, were basically in his pocket. I went directly to my supervisor's office and told him the whole story. He had me fill out an incident report and all supplemental forms. He said it sounded like a clear case of self-defense, especially if it was all on camera. She'd probably be charged with aggravated battery, since there were injuries. And that was it. Nothing else ever happened. I never heard another thing. I called my uncle, who was a longtime officer in that department, and my inspiration for going into law enforcement, and even he couldn't find anything about it. No police report or anything. It was all swept under the rug and forgotten. I guess the moral of the story here is that money talks. Except for 3 more quick in-and-out trips to the lawyer's office, I never went to that part of town ever again. The beginning of that was a little dark, and it definitely went for a while. I can only hope that OP's doing better now, and I especially hope that Cruella de Vil hasn't been terrorizing anyone else. It really is sad to see how much people with money can get away with. Whew, wow. That really was a big one, because we are out of time now, ladies and gentlemen. You know how it is. Thank you so much for tuning into Life Stories once again. My name is Trent. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for all the Reddit content we have in the works coming to you soon, including some interesting new developments, and I hope to see you guys later.